Hello, my name is Emily. These videos are honestly just for me, but I'm gonna make them public because I feel like that's gonna motivate me to read these books and actually stick with my goal. So, okay. I set a goal to read 25 books in 2025 on my social media on Instagram. That didn't work out, so I am trying the YouTube route because I've noticed that I love watching YouTube. Well, I've always known that, but I'm assuming that, hey, if I like watching YouTube videos, why not post a video of myself during my journey reading these books? So we're gonna see, because I'm gonna force myself to make a video and talk about the actual review. I feel like posting something on Instagram is just me writing about it, and I honestly just want to talk about this and analyze it just for my own memories. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about this book that I read. I set a goal for myself to read 25 books in 2025. I got 3 books in, and then I don't know, just got busy with life, just making excuses. So I'm back on it. I'm going to try to review. I'm not going to put a limit of books. However, I'm going to see how many I can read consistently, to maybe try to upload I don't know, maybe a video a week. It might not even be that, honestly. This could be the last video you see, or I could really stick with it and do a video a week, or maybe a video a month. I don't know. But I'm really going to try to stick with my reading. So this book that I'm going to talk about, which I just finished, very proud of myself, is The Last Train to Istanbul. That's what I'm going to review today. And yeah, so the reason why I picked up this book is because, and I'm just actually searching because I know it's Selva. I just want to make sure that I have the other sister's name right. Yeah, Sabia and Selva. So the reason I'm reading this book, or the reason I already read it, is because I took a trip to Turkey, to Istanbul specifically, with my husband and his family. We had a really beautiful time. It's such an amazing city, full of so much history, just delicious food, amazing mosques, a totally different culture I've never been exposed to. And I really wanted to read this book before I left on my trip, but I got occupied. I had other things to do, so I didn't get around to reading the book before I left Istanbul. However, I read it when I got back, and I feel like it just made me appreciate my trip to Istanbul so much more. What the book is called it's called The Last Train to Istanbul. So I'll probably put a picture in the thumbnail because I want to keep track of the books that I'm reading. So what this book is about is it's about 2 sisters, so Sabiha and Selva. That's the overarching, a lot of the themes in the book are about family, about holding on to anger in a family and what damage that can do. It's definitely includes a lot of historical references about World War II. It talks about the difficulties managing a multicultural relationship. It talks about themes as settling down in a safe relationship, even if that's someone that you didn't really immediately click with. It talks about the bond of 2 sisters. So the book has a lot of themes that honestly I love that the book touched on. I can definitely relate having an intercultural marriage, just myself being from the US, my husband being from Spain. Also, the theme of sisterhood, so living so far away from my sister. I lived in Arizona, my sister lived in Washington, D.C., so that was kind of tough navigating that, so I could definitely relate to the characters. So basically the book, it starts with the 2 sisters, and it talks about how Sabiha marries a diplomat, and her parents are very proud of that fact, and they love him. His name is Masset. I hope I'm getting the characters right. It's honestly been a week since I finished the book. However, whatever. This is just for me, so it doesn't even matter. So anyway, so Sabiha, she marries Masit, who's a very prestigious diplomat, and of course Sabiha's father loves him. On the other hand, his sister marries a Jewish man. And they're also so Sabiha and Selva are from a very like high class family. Like they're very rich in Istanbul. So it really matters to the parents who their daughters ended up marrying. So the father makes sure to put them in language schools, in the best education, to make sure that they're well-rounded girls that, well, Selva thought that her father just wanted her to be an intelligent woman. However, we don't really know if his intentions were to have well-rounded, intelligent women, or if it was just so that his daughters could be smart enough to marry an elite man. So Sabiha goes with the elite man. Selva marries the man that her parents don't approve of. They end up moving to, of all places, Paris. And this was set in, let's say, I think it was 1938 when the book started, because I know that it ended in, I think it was 44, 45, right before the war ended. So during the book, Sabiha and Selva, they miss each other a lot. They, they're just, it's really sad just to see that during the book, when Selva and her husband move, the father is very angry, disapproves of the husband, won't talk to Selva, won't talk to her husband, and it's sad. It's because it just goes to show that a grudge can really tear a family apart. So during the book, as it evolves, the war evolves, and I'm also learning a lot about the stance that Turkey took during World War II, which was very neutral. They didn't want to involve Turkish citizens in the war. They didn't want to choose sides. They had a lot of pressure from the UK. They had pressure from Russia. They had pressure from, not really from France, because it was the Vichy that really were basically France really, I don't want to get too much into it. There's lots of debates about how that went. However, France was pretty neutral, so France pretty much got taken over by the German soldiers and by the German side of World War II. So as the story evolves, Sabiha's sister Selva and Rafo, so Rafo is the name of Selva's husband, who's Jewish, they almost get caught by the German soldiers, and Rafo almost gets sent to a concentration camp. So they end up trying to flee to Marseille, Marseilles, I don't know how you say that. And then it basically turns out terrible. During the story, there's also themes of depression. As far as Sabiha, she's struggling with a lot of mental illness surrounding the marriage of her and Masit. She feels very alone in the marriage. She feels very disconnected from her daughter, and a lot of the sadness is coming from the fact that she misses her sister. So, and other things too. But I think that's the main reason that at least I caught on. So anyways, when Sabiha learns that the German soldiers have taken over Marseille and that her sister is in danger, she reaches out to one of her best friends, Tarek, who's stationed in Paris. And basically the Turkish government, the diplomats, all of them, they figure out a way to basically help Selva, Sabiha's sister, and her husband, and a bunch of other Turkish citizens who are also Jewish, because Turkish did not, during World War II, acknowledge that just because you're Jewish, it doesn't mean that you are going straight to a concentration camp. That, if you are a Turkish citizen, regardless of Jewish, Catholic, any religion, you are a Turkish citizen, and if you hold a Turkish passport, then you are in no jurisdiction over, like the German soldiers have no jurisdiction over you. And so basically the Turkish embassy was like in a rush to give passports and like identification to these Jewish citizens that were also Turkish. Some of them weren't Turkish, so this was kind of like a big scheme that they did to get the train from Paris back to Turkey to Istanbul so that they could get the Jewish people to safety. Anyways, so the train, it ended up having to go through Germany all the way through, I believe it was Austria, all these countries down to Istanbul. So I would say that was probably like the last quarter of the book, was the fact that they had to go in this train, and they were like facing a lot of fear and anxiety over their time on this train, because they didn't know that if they were going to get caught. They didn't know what was going to happen, because along as they were making the stops in the train, there were German soldiers that were checking this train and making sure that, because they had to do pit stops and checks, because that was the orders that they got from the head of the Germans. So the train ended up making it through, and at the end of the book, it was and I'm definitely missing some parts of the book, but also it's okay. I don't want it to be, well, I don't really care if it's a spoiler, because this is for me. I would say, what else? Like, it also touched on themes of friendship, so I'm kind of going back. I know that I reached the end, but I also want to touch back on this theme of friendship. So with Tarek and his roommate. Also, I'm not remembering if Massa is the actual name of Sabia's husband. I can't really remember his name. But I think it might have started with an M. Massa might be Tarek's roommate. Anyways, so they were roommates, and Tarek was very serious, Massa was very playful and funny, or whoever his roommate's name was. And so it kind of touched on like themes of friendship and yeah, just being like a fearful soldier alone in a war, and being young and not knowing. So that was interesting to also follow along his story. But the book is interesting because it's like each chapter, it jumps to a different story. So like it jumps to the story of Sabiha, then it jumps to the story of Tarek, then it jumps to the story of Selva, and then to the story of another soldier that I'm forgetting his name, but he was like taken towards the end. I think it was like Derek or something, but that was towards the end of the book. And anyway, so towards the end of the book, they all make it to Turkey, and they end up, so Selva and Rafo and Julia, Julia is Sabiha's daughter. Fazl is Selva and Rafo's child. So Fazl, Selva, and Rafo all make it out of the train, and they see Selva's mother. They see Sabiha, so Selva's sister, and then at the very end of the book, they mention that there was a tall man in a gray suit looking from behind like a wall or something, and so we're pretty sure that was Selva's dad. That's all that we can hope for, because that's what Selva wanted. She, in her heart, like, she ached that she just wanted to see her dad, but we don't really know. So we were kind of left with a cliffhanger, but it's kind of up to the reader to decide, was that Selva's dad? Was that Rafo's family? We don't know. But overall, I would give this book probably honestly a 4.5 out of 5, because I felt like it was a very interesting read. I felt like I wasn't never bored. It's one of those books, because I've had some pretty tough reads, like The Understory. I hated that book. but this was a very easy read. It was very entertaining. I don't want to give it 5 out of 5 because I don't know how historically accurate everything in the book is. But, and it does focus a lot on like the sadness and the mourning of the characters, and I feel like there was just a lot of time taken on the sadness and like the isolation of Sabiha, and I don't think that so much time needed to be taken on that, because I feel like as the reader, like, we understood how sad she was. And but it was interesting because the book also touched on the fact that like talk therapy was a new concept in that time, and I guess the character Sabiha, it talks about like her time with the doctor and going through talk therapy with him, and so it was very interesting. And that's why, I don't want to dish on it too much, but yeah. Okay, so now going forward, what I want to do, so this is a historical fiction book, and I don't have the actual book because I read everything on this Kindle, but going forward, I'm making a challenge for myself, and I'm gonna try to read a historical fiction until I get tired of them, and see, maybe I'm not gonna get tired of a historical fiction book. But my next thing on the list is reading a historical fiction book from Albania. So I'm gonna go A to Z. So the top historical fiction book is like The Dead Soldier or something like that. So I'm gonna try to read that one and see how it is. But apparently it has great reviews. I know that this is for me, but if someone happens to watch this and they know a good historical fiction book based in Albania, let me know. Because I feel like, I don't know, my favorite way of learning about a country before I go is historical fiction. I mean, it's fun as long as it's accurate. But yep. So my next book will be soon.